Hey, good morning, guys, and welcome to the Absolutely Golf Podcast. This is episode number one of this first podcast. So we are going to try do this a little bit and see how things go here. This is the first time we're doing a podcast, so I hope you guys enjoy this. So again, welcome to the Absolutely Golf Podcast. Practical golf, zero fluff. I'm Adam Hubbard from Overhauling Golf and the TikTok Golf League. Each week we're going to be doing a little bit of sim talk, tour talk, anything about golf, and how can we improve your games, lower your scores without reinventing your swing. So a couple different segments each week. Again, we're going to be talking about equipment, simulator golf, and other things. Basically, here's what the show's about. So, a lot of golfers, you get lost in YouTube tips, swing theories, and swing methods. There's always a new coach popping up with, oh, this is the perfect swing for you, how to fix your slice, and things that we're going to talk about that can actually improve your game. Been in the golf industry over 30 years, started out as a cart kid, cleaning carts at 14 years old, work as an assistant golf pro. And then my background is almost 25 plus years as a club fitter. So I know a lot about equipment, shafts. Pretty good idea on the golf swing. Was a pretty competitive golfer in my youth. Last 4 or 5 years, I've been working in golf retail as a manager. So I'm still got my pulse kind of on the business of golf, if you will. With that. So we're going to be talking different things here, just basically how we can get your game to the next level. Talk about different things, how simulators can improve your game, a little bit of gear, and then strategy that you can use on the course, that you can steal from better players, different creators. We'll talk about what's going on in the golf space that week as well. So these are all things that hopefully can help improve your game. So let's kind of dive in here. Kind of first thing we're going to talk about each week. The main segment will be what we call the Sim Lab. Basically, what we're going to talk about is, what you can do or how you can use a launch monitor to really improve your game. So as we dive in here, first thing, request I had from one player, that'll be for episode one, is how can you hit a stock fade and how can you use a launch monitor to actually improve more controlled ball flight? We don't want a weak slice, but we want that powerful, power fade that you see these guys hit week in and week out on tour. You've seen Scotty Scheffler, you've seen Rory McIlroy go to it, Tiger, some of the greats in the game. Nicholas played a fade, Trevino played a fade. These are all guys that could really control their ball flight. And so here's a couple of things that we can kind of dive into here on this first episode of the Absolutely Golf Podcast is what can you do now if you have access to a simulator? It makes this learning curve a lot simpler. If you don't, you can still take this out to the driving range and still do these things and just use targets to kind of see what you're doing. But in this day and age, you can pretty much get on a launch monitor just about anywhere. You can go into a Golf Galaxy, you can PGA Superstore. You can get a home launch monitor now for under $1,000 with just a net and an iPad. If you just want to start the basic, that's how I started, with that. So if we're looking at a launch monitor, so this is going to predominantly be for a right-handed player. You can use it for left-handed, just flip the numbers. So three things we want to look at. We want to look at club path, we want to look at face to path, and then start line. So these are going to be the three things that we're going to want to work on if we're trying to hit that power fade. Okay. First thing is you want to look at is club path. So that's going to be our first checkpoint. And so when you're looking at that data, you want to look at that club path. We want that number to be 0 to -2. So when you're reading numbers on a launch monitor, negative is always left, positive is always right. Doesn't matter if you're lefty or righty, those are going to be the numbers that you're going to want to look at. In this case, since we're right-handed, we want that path to be pretty much down the line to even a little bit left of target. So a really good drill is build yourself an alignment gate. You're going to aim your body left, face a target, and swing through this gate. So how are you going to do this? Easy way to do it is take 3 golf balls. Okay. If you were to line them straight up and down, that would be a gate. You would try to hit that middle golf ball. Now, if we're working on a certain path, you want to stagger these golf balls. So we're going to take that top ball, we're going to move it a little bit left. We're going to keep the center ball where it is. And then we're going to take that lower ball and we're going to move it a little bit to the right. So now our path gate is going to be starting left of our target line. So you want to swing through that gate with a golf club, hit the center ball, and that's going to be how you can kind of work on that path. So again, if you have that launch monitor, set the path up to where, again, you're going to be 0 to 2 degrees. If you're 4 or 5 degrees, it's too much. If you're sitting there and, your ball's starting right and it's drawing, well, then you don't have the lineup right. Checkpoint 2 is going to be face to path. Now we want face about a degree more open than your path. Okay, so again, so if we're starting out, 0 to -2 to the left, we want that path to be +1 open coming through. So again, that club face, you're swinging through the gate, club face is a little bit open, ball is going to start slightly left, and then it's going to fade back to target. Now, we don't want this turning into an ugly slice. So we don't want to be 4, 5, 6 degrees outside in. We don't want that club face to be 4 or 5 degrees open, because then all you're going to get is that big banana ball as you're swinging. And then your third checkpoint is going to be your start line. So with the start line of the golf ball, again, the ball should start about a yard to the left and then peel back to that center, so you can play that little stock cut. So a good way to do this, if you're at a driving range, find a mat or a target, that's lined up to pretty straight to that flag, and then make sure that ball is starting left and then coming back to that flag. Find another target, a tree, and you can use an alignment stick down range if you have access, where you're not going to get hit. Make sure it's clear before you walk out there. So these are the things that you want to do, that you can go, practice on. Um, going through those different drills, you want to check your club path, you want to check your face to path, and then a start line. Those are going to be the three keys that we're going to work on while we're on that. And using that launch monitor data is going to allow you to kind of see the progress, if you will. If you get in there and you're hitting these little weak high fades, well, then something's off. Either your club face is too open, your path is too far left, and you're just not making good contact. And that's going to be the main part of the gate drill, is to help you focus on making center face contact. Because you're hitting a toe, you're hitting a heel, it's going to exacerbate those side spin numbers, and the ball's not going to do what you want. So the closer you hit to the center of the club face, it's going to allow you to control the ball flight better. You're going to get maximum distance. All those things are going to affect the ball flight. So I know not many people start off the podcast telling you to hit a fade. They're always going to tell you, oh, you got to hit a draw for more distance. Well, these are things that, again, if you're already playing a fade, great. If it's a 20 or 25-yard slice, then you can dial it back, checking those numbers. So check the face to path, check your club path. If you're -6, 7 degrees outside in and your club face is open 4 or 5 degrees, well, now you know what's causing it. You know why you're hitting the big slice. Then you can dial that back to make it a controllable fade. Try to get those numbers closer to 0 or -2 on your club path. Try to get that face angle closer to 1 or 2 degrees as opposed to 4 or 5. These are all things that can kind of help you make better decisions and make better contact. And then checking your start line. I played with a guy in a tournament years ago, and he must have played a 40-yard cut slice, I should say. He would get on the right side of the tee box. He would aim as far left as humanly possible and peel that ball back. And it landed in the center, but he was swinging probably 100 miles an hour, hitting it at about 210, giving up gobs and gobs of yardage, but he could play it and he knew where it was going. He came in for a fitting, wanted to try to correct it. And I'm like, dude, I played with you. You know where it's going. So we try to minimize a little bit of the side spin, get the backspin down, and he picked up about 15, 20 more yards with a proper fitting, and just to kind of help dial it in a little bit. Still played the fade, but now that he was hitting, 230 to 240, that's 15, 20 yards. That's two clubs less into a green. So he went from hitting 5 irons into 7 irons, better chance of scoring as you get closer to the green. So that's what we'll talk more about clubs and fitting as we go along in this podcast. So what else can you do in a simulator? So we're going to give you a 30-minute sim plan that you can use to take that data and then actually turn it into real world practice. Always warm up, use that first 5 minutes stretching. I don't think a lot of us do. We just grab balls and start smacking them, grab and go, and that's not what you want. Spend 5 minutes warming up, stretching out, get your muscles loose, get ready to hit. It's a workout. You're going to be working on something, and then spend about 7 minutes working on that path gate, working on your face to path, working on getting those numbers where you need them. You don't need to hit 100 golf balls. Hit, 5 to 10. Look at the numbers, diagnose what you're doing, and then spend about 10 minutes working on your face to path using the ladder. Try hitting different shots. Start out with a wedge, hit an 8 iron, hit a 7 iron. 3 balls each, 4 balls each, just to get an idea of how much it's moving, what the yardages are, so that when you do go to the golf course, okay, cool, I'm working on this. Maybe I was hitting my 7 iron 140, now I'm hitting at 150, or vice versa. At least a yardage, especially if you're going through a swing change. You're always going to take a step back initially because you're doing something that you're not comfortable with. That's where practicing, even if you're just getting on a range 3 times a week, or in a simulator for 30 minutes, 3 times a week. practice, those things that you're working on. And then spend 6 minutes working with the driver. Again, so we know the driver is going to be the club that's probably going to move the most. It's got the least amount of loft. So you don't have that extra backspin to straighten out the flight. That's why a wedge goes straighter than a 5 iron, and why a 5 iron typically will go straighter than driver, just because loft is your friend. So, and then take the last two swings so that you would hit on the first tee. Again, so what I talk about when I go to the first tee, a lot of times I don't have enough time to warm up. I get there. Some places don't have ranges that I play at. Other times I get there, late or something happens. We all do this. We have a 10:30 tee time. We show up at 10:20. So you have enough time to go in, pay for greens fee, maybe take a couple practice swings, and you're on the first tee. So a go-to for me is to get on the right side. I know I'm not warm. I'm not swinging at my full speed yet. Don't want to hurt myself. So I'll aim down left center and I will try to hit that little peeler. The ball will fade back in. Doesn't go as far, but at least I'm in play. I can get a club on it and maybe get it on the green. Worst case scenario, I'm just on the front edge. I make a par and I'm off the races. It gives me time to kind of get my brain working, get myself ready for the round as much as I can, and then go out and enjoy myself. That ball flight might straighten out over the next few holes, but as I get more loose, my typical ball flight is a draw, but I want to work on trying to hit a little stock cut. So these are things that I'm working on too. This will be something we'll talk about in the off season. All right. So just like I said, those things, that you can work on. If there's one thing you can take for this, body left, face a target, face slightly open, more than your path, that's your fade recipe. So work on these things, see how they do. Let me know in the comments what you think. Again, you can find me on all the socials at Overswing Golf, TikTok, YouTube, all those things. And these are things that we'll work on. We'll try to shoot some content for you guys as well to accompany this and see what happens. So, all right, so we're going to shift here to our gear segment, the Retail Corner. So, new thing that's out this week is the Oz heel shafted putter. Brand new, just hit the market this week. It is August 28th. I think it launched Wednesday. So, pretty interesting putter. So, if you're not familiar with Lab, that's a lie angle balanced. The whole thing with these putters is started a whole trend, and it's zero torque. So if you take a traditional putter, a Ping Answer, Scotty Cameron Newport 2 blade putter, and you just hang it on your finger, the toe of that putter is going to hang at an angle. With these zero torque putters, you're going to get the toe of the putter actually pointing straight up. So toe up design, if you will. There's been a couple different versions over the years, but the Lab has really kind of caught fire over the last, say, 10 months. JJ Spawn uses it to win the US Open. You've got Lucas Glover using it. You've got a lot of players. Ricky Fowler has switched to it, and they're seeing some really good success with these putters. If you haven't tried one, definitely get into a shop, roll some putts, see what they do. They're not for everybody, but the trend is really catching on. You've got Odyssey now with square to square. You've got even roll putters with their zero design. Bettinardi's got one. Ping has got something similar with their new Alley Blue onset, although it's not toe up in that design. I think it's them trying to capture a little bit of this market. We'll talk maybe more about that next week. But with the these putters, the whole concept is that the face doesn't rotate. That's what the zero torque is. So wherever you aim this putter, it's generally going to go. Yes, you can still pull and push them, things like that. But as you accelerate this putter more, especially on the long putts, you're not going to get that face opening and closing. It's going to return square a lot easier with that putters. Anyway, so this new version, the shaft is not in the center. It's more in the heel of the putter. So with that design, you're going to see it looks more traditional. They are still able to build these things line angle balanced. So that's where getting fit for these putters is super important because that is part of their technology. The other aspect is, from what I've heard on this thing, is so it's not just the putter getting bent to a certain angle. They actually change the length of the hosel. The hosel is made out of aluminum, so it doesn't add any weight. So if your putter's more upright, say you're a 73, 74, 75-degree lie angle, they actually put in a longer hosel to make the shaft more upright. If you're a flatter lie angle guy, so 68, 67, 65, that hosel gets shorter, but you don't notice it at the address position, so it kind of blends in and it hides. So kind of interesting. I don't think I've ever seen anyone actually do that before in a putter. So pretty cool. And so the Oz design is a more traditional mallet. I think you're going to be able to get it with or without an insert. So the Oz Eye has that stainless steel with these guys, and then they custom build them. You can get different alignment, different colors. I'm sure they're going to have more options for this design as they go along. I think there's like 28 different alignment aids. You can go on their website and check them out. So pretty cool, with that. So I would say, go into a PGA Superstore, wherever your local golf shop is, and, roll some putts, see what you think. Try out the different models. It's not just lap. Everyone's got a couple different shapes, sizes, and styles. Mineral's got some traditional shapes, although their hosel is a little funky with their original zero design. It looks like a left-handed hosel on a right-handed putter. Although same thing with the lab, it kind of blends in. You really don't notice it. It's actually the current putter I'm using. So, pretty cool. With that we'll move on here. The next thing we're going to call this the Q&A or the yardage book. Why yardage book? Well, this is a reference. This is you pull out your yardage book. You want to see how far you're hitting it. You want to see where the trouble is. So these are going to be your Q&As that we'll talk about each week. So I'm going to grab some questions from some of my different social media posts, and then we'll talk about them on here. First one we're going to talk about, we'll see here, is should I practice at full speed or slow down? So I'll say, honestly, mix it. Use 70% rhythm for most swings, then swing at 95% speed, and then finish at 85% of your game or tempo. That's something that you can do. You see these guys all the time that talk about hitting all speed shots. I thought there was a great video years ago that Titleist did. People always ask, well, what's your swing speed? And the guy's like, depends on what shot I'm hitting. My driver might be 110, my 8 iron might be, 85. So you can't just say, well, what's your swing speed? It depends on the club you're hitting. It depends on the shot you're hitting. These guys take spin off all the time. Best players in the world that do that are actually LPGA. They're able to just really dial in those finesse shots. Some really cool things that those players can do. And if you want to really work on your putting, copy what they do. Some of the best players in the world are actually on the LPGAs. With that, second question we've got is how do I make sim practice transfer to the course? So this is a big one for me. So I started out with a net and a mat and an iPad. And then I've slowly progressed up to a full budget sim, if you will. I don't have a $20,000 launch monitor. I pretty much built this with parts and pieces to get myself a simulator. And the big thing with that is that I got it now with a Square Golf launch monitor. It's a camera unit that I use in my garage. It works really well. The camera units generally work better inside. If you've got a GC2, GC3, something that's a camera unit quad, I generally think if you've got a small garage sim, SkyTrack, it's going to work better. Tends to get a little funky indoors if you don't have enough space. I had a Rapsodo MLM2, great unit, awesome unit. They were um, big for me when I first got on TikTok. They were kind of helping me along, kind of get me some followers. Did an awesome job with that. Over time, what I found was that I'd get more misreads. There was some interference if I turned a fan on, and just some things. Again, I'm doing it in my garage. It gets hot in the summertime, cold in the winter, and I wanted to be able to run an AC unit. Well, that messed it up. So the Square unit is pretty cool. It's a camera-based system. You can put on it. It's something that I use constantly. I love the unit. You can work it with GS Pro. It's got its own courses, its own range. It does give you some club data. It's not 100%. It's a $700 launch monitor. So is it a TrackMan? No. Is it a GC Quad? No. But for what I use it for, it's great with that. Going back to that question is how can a simulator make that transfer of practice to the course? So the big thing for me is I would say would be to add consequence. And what I mean by that is go through your pre-shot routine just like you would in the course, do it in the simulator. Practice how you play. Don't just sit there and just rake balls and smack, rake balls and smack. I say quality practice over quantity. Sitting there hitting 100 balls and just mindlessly hitting a golf ball, it's not doing any good. I'd rather sit there and, like we talked about earlier, hit 10 shots and work on that fade, work on the draw, trying to hit certain things. I will load up GS Pro. I'll put it on a par 3 that's got bunkers front, water left, create a hole on their shot thing, and make it count. Sit there and go, okay, I got one ball, one shot, one opportunity to get this ball on the green. And, just like you would on the golf course, yes, you can hit in the water, take a drop, whatever, but now you got double bogey. And a simulator, same thing. One thing that you may have recently heard from Scotty Scheffler when he talks about when he played with Tiger. I thought this was a cool story. He was sitting there and playing around. He said him and Tiger were like in 20th place, really didn't have a shot to win the tournament. But Tiger on the first hole on that first putt was concentrating like he had a 15-shot lead, and just that intensity that he wanted to put on every shot to make it matter, put some weight on that shot, not necessarily add pressure, but just being able to focus on that shot and make it count as much as any other shot on the course. Nicholas was fantastic at doing that. He could summon that concentration 4 or 5 seconds, hit the shot that he needed to hit, and then let it go. Talk about how your kid's doing. Hey, what's going on in your life? And then focus again, hit that shot. These are these things these guys are able to do mentally that separates them from us. So just put that added weight on the shot while you're in the simulator can just make you that much more comfortable on the course. You've practiced it, you know what it feels like. You can take that feeling, okay, the shot, I'm going to hit this club, I'm going to commit to it. And whatever the outcomes are, you at least put your entire mindfulness on that shot. If you executed and it did what you wanted, awesome. If it didn't, well, at least you can say that you tried. You did everything you could to hit that shot. Anyway, that's just taking that practice to the course, taking that sim practice and making it better. Last question: what's the fastest way to drop strokes? And I'm going to say putting. Putting practice is a huge thing. I would say build a ladder from 3 feet to 12 feet, basically putting a ball down every 3 feet, and then track your percentage and do this weekly. Again, spend 10, 15 minutes whenever you can to hit putts. Grab a golf club every day if you can. Just to grip it, take a couple practice swings, take a couple putting strokes, just keep that feel. You don't want to go weeks and weeks with never touching a club and expect to get better. So in this case, if you can go out, build yourself, go to a putting green, if you got a day off, if you got 30 minutes after work, stop by a golf store and just roll some putts. You don't have to sit there and, try every putter in the market, but grab something similar to your gamer and just hit some putts. Speed may be different than your golf course, but at least you're still technically working on something. And then see how many you make. If you can make, if you make, I think the PGA Tour average once you get outside of 6 feet drops like half. So if you can sit there and you make all your 3 footers and you make all your 6 footers and then you go to 9 feet and you're not making any of those, well, then that's where you got to live. You got to work, I should say. You're missing those putts. You start making more of those around, your strokes are going to drop. So anyway, guys, so that's just a quick little Q&A, what we call the yardage book here on the podcast. So we're going to sit here and wrap this up a little bit. All right, that is episode 1. Hopefully that helped today. If you like this, hit the follow, drop your questions for next week's yardage book. You can do it on any of my social media platforms, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. That's where I spend most of my time. It's Overswing Golf. If you have anything that you want to look at, talk about, let me know. We will continue hopefully to do this, see if you guys like that. We will talk about how AI can help your game. I've got some cool things that you can do in Chat GTP to help your golf game that we can post and we'll talk about. Next week's episode, we'll talk about the how AI can help you, maybe talk about more gear stuff that's coming out and keep doing it. So guys, I hope you like this. This is the Absolute Golf Podcast, practical golf, zero fluff, and we'll see you in the sim lab. Take care.